Hi, Lisa McGuinness here. So I've been reading like oracle cards um, for not very long, and I don't do it very often because I found for myself when I had too many um, like psychic readings, I started to make decisions based on what the psychic said, or I started to go more and more often to get psychic readings. And basically, that was, I was becoming dependent on the cards and the reader as opposed to God's guidance or even, loved ones who might say, I can maybe see you doing that somewhere in the future, but maybe not quitting your job and moving to Australia right now is the best idea, kind of thing, right? Um, so I decided to show you. I picked up these cards. I think I bought them from Dollar Tree for $1.25 plus tax. I think that's where I got them. And they're kids playing cards, basically. If you can see them, there's spoons and there's what is that? Go fish, and then there's a memory game, and I didn't play them as kids cards. I thought it might be interesting to do regressive type readings, because they have like more children's pictures and things like that without any words, but there's numbers too, because one of the readings I do is with an ordinary playing deck. So I thought I might do a small spread on myself. I've never done a regressive oracle reading on myself or anyone else. So I thought I'd give it a try. I'm not very good at reading for myself, but I'll give it a try. So I find with a regular deck, I mean, these are meant as playing cards. So I try to hold them, lengthways because that's how I've seen um, tarot card readers shuffle them. So I'm shuffling them this way. I'm gonna. Apparently, my brother just passed away 10 months ago, and I didn't know. Someone down the street told me, a man I barely know. And so that's been, um, yeah, that's been difficult to deal with. Um, anyway, so I've shuffled them a bit, you know, and, uh, and I'm going to split them in three. That's what I've seen psychic readings do, psychic readers do. And then I tend to, when I do a reading, I tell people to pick as many cards as they want. If someone wants a smaller reading, you can do 3 cards, one for the past, one for the present, one for the future. If someone's stuck on how many cards to pick. So we got a shark. I'll just hold them up. I guess you can see them, eh? Got a shark. An upside down rainbow. I don't normally do upside down cards. That's up to you. And then there's a kite, a paper airplane, a whale, and another whale. I'll leave it at that. I'm going to see. So initially what I get from this is that I was living with someone, and every once in a while, for 4 years I was living with this person, and every once in a while I'd have a dream about some type of animal usually. And I remember one in particular, I had a dream about a flying monkey. And I Googled it, what does a dreaming of a flying monkey mean? And it had something about, I think that particular card said something about someone in your midst, someone that's close to you is conning you. Or was it a flying snake? I don't know. There was a couple of them that indicated that someone close to me was actually acting uh, in um, an adverse position for my um, my care, or yeah, you know what I mean, like they were working against me instead of with me, but they were pretending to be in my life. And so I thought the first person I thought of was the person I was living with, just because that was really the only person that was really close to me. But there was a couple other people in there. There was 2 women that I also had spent quite a bit of time with during that time. And to be honest, I could, in retrospect, see that both of them may have been acting against me. So the shark, that's kind of what it says to me. Um, the paper airplane, when I was in prison, I have a neighbor. He was, I think, 9 when I went to jail, and um, he was living with his grandmother. His father was sort of AWOL, and I'd see him outside playing soccer by himself. So I'd kick the ball with them a little bit, and then we played catch once and went to play basketball. And when I was in jail, at some point he stopped talking to me, and he actually like tried to hurt me. He kicked a soccer ball, and it hit the roof and almost hit me in the head. And I wasn't quite sure what I'd done to aggravate him. But while I was in jail, I did a piece of art, and I knew it would just end up in the garbage, or one of the guards would take it or whatever, or destroy it. So I decided to mail it to him. I wrote him a couple letters, and I also made a paper airplane that flies in circles. It literally just keeps flying in circles when you throw it. So that's what it reminds me of, is this paper airplane. And then also the ants. There was a lot of ants in one of my cells, and my method of controlling them was just to feed them really well, and then they went back underground, because another previous video I mentioned that when animals are hungry or need something, that's when they'll typically come out. And then the whales, I don't know. I did a painting years ago. It wasn't quite a painting. It was basically you take a small piece of glass and another small piece of glass, and you get some watercolor paint, and you um, spread some like blotches of paint on it, and you squish the two pieces of glass with the watercolor paint in between, and then you take it off, or can you keep it on? I don't know, but you put it in water, and because it's watercolor, it starts to um, you know sh- smear and stuff with the water. Anyway, when I finished the painting, there was a whale in the corner, and it was a perfectly formed whale, and I was stunned when I actually saw it. I was like, wow, I didn't even know that was there. I also, there's a lot of animals in my life, and whales apparently have um, a very complicated, as do many animals, have a very complicated language, and the fact that there's two whales, they're both smiling, um, you know, they're at the surface because they're blowing water from the top. So that indicates to me that the animal kingdom, at least, is happy with the way things are going on the planet. They've been taken advantage of for a long time, and I see that there's two whales here that possibly there's some hope, at least for the animal kingdom. I also see that the shark has like a bottle opener type, you know, end, and I recently started going back to. Um, anyway, I won't mention that, but I think I've been criticized a lot for going out dancing. I find that part of my mission in life, I feel, is to inspire people to do what they love. I put down the TV remote when I was 18, and I never really picked it up again. And I find because of that, I've I've been forced to explore other options, because TV and internet is a great way to artificially produce connection, but it's also can be very damaging. I know that a lot of messages and images on the TV disturb me terribly now. I don't know if, like I mentioned, I think I might have a bit of autism due to injections and vaccines, and I take TV quite literally, and not only because there's some very real life things presented, but also because they're very well done too. So they're very true to life. It's very difficult to sometimes tell, especially anyway. So I can't remember where I was going at, except that also reminds me not only of a bottle opener, but also a wrench, an adjustable wrench. You know, um, reminds me of my dad. My dad was a maintenance mechanic, and um, I learned. See, I feel like bawling my eyes out right now. Like I said, this was supposed to be a regressive reading. So, my dad drank a lot. So he used to always have a bottle opener because back in the 70s, they weren't screw top bottles. They were, you had to use a bottle opener. And he used to drink Export A. And, um, the teeth, the shark's teeth, the angry teeth, but the dimples at the same time. My dad did have a good sense of humor, um, but he had a very biting temper. And um, some reason I'm thinking loan shark as well. I was telling someone last night that that the evil that's in the world, if it is a particular being creating the evil, eventually the devil expects his pound of flesh. And that saying comes from a Shakespearean play called Merchant of Venice. And basically, you know, Shylock was a loan shark, and the other character borrowed money and he couldn't pay it, and the debt was supposed to be that Shylock got a pound of his flesh if he didn't pay, and somehow it ends up in court, and the the person who borrowed the money, um, you know, wins the case by saying that Shylock wants a pound of flesh, but with flesh there's blood and tissue and things that aren't in the contract, and he wins. Um, anyway, I guess that's just what I'm going to do. It very that my dad being a maintenance mechanic, I learned a lot of mechanical things just by watching him. A lot of mechanical things. The rainbow. I remember when I was a kid, we used to go to Burns Drive Park, which was quite a distance from my house. Me and my best friends, Vicky and Dory, and I remember one day we were in the park and this huge rainbow. It was like in a complex, and it was fairly low income complex. And I remember one day a huge rainbow came across the park, and you could hear all the way through the complex, "Mom, look at the rainbow!" Right? And you know, um, yeah, color purple. The color purple reminds me of, I used to wear a lot of purple just because I bought a purple jacket. I really liked the purple jacket, so I ended up buying pants and a top to match, and yeah, but I never had it in my home. I never kept purple in my home. And these shiny bits here, um, I recently called um, Crime Stoppers because there was some trailers parked by the railroad tracks, and it looked like people were living in them, but I could hear children screaming in them. So I called Crime Stoppers, and the lady that came out to talk to me about the children or the trailer and the noise I was hearing had something sparkly on her, and she was a bit too shiny. She said she was living in the trailer, and she's a bit too shiny, a bit too polished. Yeah, so I'm going to stop there because this is um, slightly upsetting, and I find I shut down very quickly. Um, I The paper airplane can also be messages, you know. And I think, if you pass notes in school, you make it into a paper airplane and throw it to the person, you know. I think I'm gonna leave it there. But that's just a general idea. If you're just starting out, you know, you can just try on yourself and see what sort of intuitive things come up, you know. And sometimes something will end up sticking out for me, something that I wasn't seeing 10 seconds before is now visible. See, I just got very triggered by that shark being on the back of this cardigan. So yeah, um, Yeah, so even if you can't do an actual reading, watch for your emotional responses. If you're doing a reading on someone else, watch their emotional responses. Do they get quiet? Do they start telling you stories? That can be an evidence that that particular card is bringing up a lot for them, or do they get angry, or do they, um, you know, anyway, that's about all I wanted to show you. Peace and greetings.